Karoline Leavitt represents everything ugly about this administration, and I'm not just talking about her character. A photo of Trump's press secretary has exploded across social media this week, and for all the wrong reasons. The image has sparked a firestorm of criticism, and Leavitt is absolutely losing her composure over it. But here's the thing, this viral moment isn't happening in isolation. Her catastrophic performance in the White House briefing room has been equally disastrous, exposing not just her inability to handle basic questions, but her complete lack of professional credibility. If discussions about physical appearance and brutal political critique aren't your preference, you might want to stop here. Because we're about to dissect exactly why Karoline Leavitt has become the face of incompetence in the Trump administration and why that face is generating so much controversy online. Before we examine that infamous photograph, let's start with what former Press Secretary Jen Psaki highlighted this week. Her analysis of Leavitt's briefing room failures is particularly revealing, especially when contrasted with how a professional press secretary actually handles tough questions.
Take a listen to her response to this question from the Daily Mail's John Michael Raish.
President Trump has talked twice in recent days, once at the Kennedy Center and then to Reuters again last night about canceling the election. Why is he talking about this?
I believe you're referring to the president's interview at Reuters last night. I was in that interview. It was a closed-door interview. Obviously, there was not audio or video. The president was simply joking.
I don't know about you, but I find the sitting president of the United States joking about canceling the next elections absolutely hilarious. Absolutely. Just joking there. Now, the reason, of course, I'm clearly kidding, that this is, of course, alarming and not funny at all, is that Trump keeps bringing up his desire to cancel the midterm elections. And he's doing things to try to make it harder for people to vote. Effectively, he's trying to end our nation's democratic experiment altogether. But the real reason I wanted to play that is because when Andrew Feinberg from The Independent presses her on the issue again, she just attacks him personally instead of answering his question.
Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy, for this democracy. Are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny?
Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation. And only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
I mean, I think a lot of people take the president of the United States threatening to cancel elections pretty seriously, especially given he repeats it and has said it many times. Okay, today Leavitt got the very first question of the briefing to none other than anti-trans activist Riley Gaines. In a room where every seat is coveted, the White House gave her two, and those are kind of special seats on the side where normally the staff sits. One for her and one for her husband so he could show Leavitt their baby. And everybody loves a baby. But again, it's a little absurd, this whole thing. There were some real journalists, though, asking important questions in that room today. And Karoline Leavitt, of course, did not answer them. So I'm going to take a crack at a few of those. There were a lot of questions, of course, about ICE today. So I'm going to start with one of those. Nandita Bose from Reuters, go ahead.
There have been multiple instances of American citizens being detained by ICE, and I'm wondering what the administration is asking the agency to do. What steps is the administration asking the agency to take to ensure that Americans are not wrongly arrested?
Nandita, I hate to break it to you, but the truth is that the Trump administration is doing nothing to prevent U.S. citizens.
The sitting president of the United States is joking about canceling the next election cycle. Let that sink in for a moment. Trump keeps bringing up his desire to cancel midterm elections while simultaneously implementing strategies to suppress voter turnout. He's systematically dismantling our democratic foundations, and Leavitt's response is to claim he's just kidding. But the real disaster came when independent reporter Andrew Feinberg pressed her on the issue. Instead of providing a substantive answer, Leavitt did what she does best, launched a personal attack.
Generally, and earlier on Secretary Noem spoke to the media and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 US citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Were you in the room? No, you weren't. That's her defense. That's the professional response from the White House press secretary when asked about the president threatening Democratic elections. Not an answer. Not a clarification. Just condescension and deflection. Leavitt received her first question of that briefing from anti-trans activist Riley Gaines, a failed swimmer with zero journalistic credentials. The White House gave Gaines 2 premium seats in a room where every position is coveted. One for her husband to showcase their baby. Because nothing says serious press briefing like bringing a prop infant to legitimize an activist posing as a journalist. Meanwhile, actual reporters were asking critical questions about ICE detaining American citizens. And Karoline Leavitt? She had no answers. Absolutely nothing of substance. The briefing room disaster continued when Irish reporter Niall Stanage from The Hill asked a perfectly reasonable question about ICE operations and American citizens being wrongfully detained.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack, you're not a reporter, you're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Lake and Riley.
Let's break down what just happened. Stanage cited verifiable facts. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 American citizens were wrongfully detained. Renee Goodwin was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. These aren't opinions. These are documented facts, and Leavitt's response? You're a biased left-wing hack. Here's what makes this particularly absurd: if that's a left-wing opinion, then the majority of this country is apparently left-wing. A Quinnipiac poll shows 53% of Americans believe Goodwin's shooting was unjustified. Only 1 in 3 Americans support the ICE agent's actions. That means a significant portion of Trump's own base disagrees with Leavitt's position, yet she's calling reporters biased for reflecting majority opinion. She stood there screaming, "Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed by illegal aliens?" while he literally just provided numbers about American citizens being killed and detained by ICE. The irony is staggering. This is who's representing the White House. This is who's supposed to communicate policy to the American people. And she can't handle a single straightforward question without having a complete meltdown. Listening to Jen Psaki's analysis really puts Leavitt's incompetence in perspective. Here's the fundamental problem: Leavitt's only job is to lie convincingly, and she can't even accomplish that basic task. She's performing for an audience of one, Donald Trump. Every response is designed to make dear leader happy, not to communicate effectively with the press or the public. She's angry. She's lashing out. She's cruel. And that's entirely intentional. Cruelty is the point of this administration. But here's what she doesn't understand: cruelty doesn't sell policy. It doesn't make you appear competent. It doesn't make you seem authentic. In fact, it has the opposite effect. It makes her look artificial, manufactured, and deeply inorganic. And speaking of inorganic, that's an appropriate description for multiple aspects of Karoline Leavitt's appearance. I'm focusing strictly on what's visible from the neck up, but it's impossible to ignore what we're seeing. At 28 years old, she's already achieved what we might call Mar-a-Lago cougar face. That overly processed, artificially enhanced look that screams desperation and poor decision-making. Which brings us to the photograph that's absolutely exploding across social media. This image wasn't captured in the controlled environment of the press briefing room with professional lighting and carefully applied makeup. This was Leavitt caught off guard at a Mexican restaurant, which, by the way, raises its own questions about hypocrisy that we'll address shortly. The original poster wrote, "Mar-a-Lago face takes a toll." This woman is 28 years old. The responses have been merciless. One user commented, "May her face continue rejecting the filler so it festers at a quicker rate." Another wrote, "Wait, she's only 28? I thought she was closer to 40. The evil really does rot you inside and out." And looking at the image, it appears she may have recently gotten a chemical peel, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with cosmetic treatments. But here's the problem: you're not supposed to expose your skin to intense sunlight immediately after a peel. The UV damage, especially in Miami, can cause exactly what we're seeing in this photo: redness, blotchiness, swelling, and an overall inflamed appearance. The puffiness is particularly striking for someone who's only 28. This isn't natural aging. This is the visible consequence of poor decisions and excessive cosmetic intervention. But let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the Mexican restaurant. Why is Karoline Leavitt allowed to eat at a Mexican restaurant? This administration has built its entire identity on demonizing immigrants, particularly from Mexico and Latin America. They've implemented brutal policies separating families, detaining children, and deporting American citizens. If you support Trump, you don't get to enjoy the benefits of the cultures you're actively destroying. You don't get Mexican food. You don't get foreign cars. You don't get to selectively appreciate diversity while simultaneously working to eliminate it. You get bland, processed garbage. You get domestic mediocrity. That's the life you've chosen, and you should live with the consequences. This gets to a larger problem with these conservative influencers and political figures. They don't practice what they preach. Candace Owens tells women to stay home and be homemakers while she builds a media empire. Erica Kirk preaches traditional values while she was on reality shows and living a completely different lifestyle in New York. Now she's a CEO with millions of dollars, telling young women not to pursue education or careers, the exact path she took to achieve success. These people are frauds. They impose lifestyles on others that they have no intention of following themselves. They sell traditionalism while living modern, career-focused lives. They promote humility while drowning in vanity and cosmetic procedures. Karoline Leavitt embodies all of this. She has a child at home. She's pregnant. She has a husband who's significantly older than her, though she seems to be seeking a father figure replacement in Donald Trump, which is disturbing on multiple levels. So here's my question: why aren't you at home? According to your own movement's ideology, shouldn't you be focused on homemaking and childcare rather than serving as press secretary? But of course, that ideology is only meant for other women. Not for the chosen few who get to participate in power. And now, some people might object to discussing Leavitt's appearance. They'll say it's inappropriate, that it's shallow, that we should focus only on policy and performance. But here's the reality: when your external appearance reflects your internal character, it becomes relevant. When you've constructed an artificial facade that's literally falling apart, it serves as a metaphor for everything you represent. Karoline Leavitt is a deeply flawed, morally bankrupt individual. That's not an opinion, it's an observable fact based on her actions and statements. She called a reporter a hack and threatened to remove him from the briefing room for saying an innocent woman shouldn't have been murdered. She disgraced Renee Goodwin's memory while standing in the White House. If she's willing to disgrace a woman who had her life stolen from her, I'm absolutely willing to point out that her cosmetic procedures are failing spectacularly. She looks awful because she is awful. The rotting is happening internally and externally simultaneously, and this isn't about her being a woman, this is about her being a terrible person who happens to be a woman. There's a crucial distinction. When you cross into MAGA territory, when you abandon basic humanity and decency, you lose the right to demand respectful treatment. You forfeited that courtesy through your own actions. This pattern extends beyond Leavitt. Look at Kristi Noem, another face full of cosmetic work, playing dress-up with billions in taxpayer dollars. She saw a woman murdered and decided to make jokes about it. So yes, I'll make observations about her appearance, because her external artificiality perfectly mirrors her internal emptiness. We need to embrace what some have called dark woke, the willingness to fight fire with fire, to mock these people who deserve mockery, to stop treating bad faith actors as if they deserve good faith engagement. They don't. And our continued politeness isn't winning us anything. I think shedding that skin of forced civility might actually help us achieve our policy goals. We need to identify who has the stomach for what's coming next. Because unity, in the traditional sense, might not be what we need right now. I've seen quotes from good Democratic governors talking about electability and unity, about how Americans don't want another Trump, they want someone who can bring people together. And look, I want a Democrat elected as much as anyone. But unity requires both sides to participate. We're not the fascists here. We're not the ones threatening democracy. I don't want to appeal to fascists. I don't want to reach out to fascists. I don't want to find common ground with people who hate me and want to see me harmed. And here's the uncomfortable truth: if they hate you and want to see you suffer, you need to recognize them as enemies. That's not cruelty, that's survival. That's strategy. And winning is all that matters. Any politician talking about electability needs to understand that winning looks like holding these people accountable. Real accountability. Criminal accountability. It looks like dismantling the MAGA movement entirely. If that doesn't look like unity to you, if you don't have the stomach for that fight, then maybe you're not the right person to lead this moment. Joe Biden had some excellent domestic policy achievements. But I believe our greatest mistake, the one we'll look back on with regret, was our reluctance to directly confront Donald Trump. Our failure to name him explicitly as a threat. Our failure to appoint prosecutors willing to hold him fully accountable. That hesitation, that restraint, that commitment to norms and procedures that only we were following, that's what allowed us to arrive at this moment. We cannot make that mistake again. It starts with calling out the obvious. It starts with saying Karoline Leavitt is failing at her job and her appearance reflects her internal corruption. It starts with refusing to pretend that cruelty deserves civility. This isn't about being mean for entertainment. This is about accurately describing reality. This is about refusing to normalize the abnormal. This is about recognizing that these people have abandoned the social contract, and we owe them nothing beyond honest assessment of their character and competence. Karoline Leavitt deserves every bit of criticism coming her way for her press briefing failures, for her attacks on journalists, for her defense of the indefensible, and yes, for her obviously failing cosmetic procedures. She's 28 years old and looks like she's been through decades of hard living. That's what selling your soul looks like in real time. The viral photo, the briefing room disasters, the polling showing Americans reject her positions, it all paints the same picture. This administration is built on lies, artificial personas, and manufactured outrage. And it's all falling apart in real time. We're going to continue calling this out every single day. No more pretending these people deserve courtesy they refuse to extend to others. No more treating bad faith actors like they're participating in good faith. No more politeness in the face of cruelty. The fight continues. Don't let them silence you. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking their failures are successes. And definitely don't let them convince you that calling out obvious truth is somehow inappropriate. Until next time, keep fighting.